Look around you. Right now, there is an invisible heartbeat keeping your modern life alive. It's not electricity, and it's not the internet. It is something much smaller, and infinitely more fragile. Imagine a switch is flipped, and suddenly, every semiconductor on Earth stops working. Instantly, your phone dies. The stock market crashes. Traffic lights go dark, causing mass gridlock across every major city on the planet. Hospitals lose their life support systems. Power grids collapse into total darkness. The global supply chain freezes completely in a matter of hours. But it gets much worse. In the skies, advanced fighter jets suddenly lose their navigation systems and become blind metal boxes falling from the clouds. On the ground, highly sophisticated armored divisions are suddenly blind, deaf, and paralyzed, unable to communicate or target anything. The world doesn't just go back to the 1950s, it descends into absolute chaos. Without these tiny chips, modern civilization simply ceases to exist. We often say data is the new oil of the 21st century. But if data is the oil, what exactly processes it? Semiconductors are the engines, the pipelines, and the refineries. They are the tiny, highly engineered brains that process every piece of digital information. From your smartwatch to hypersonic missiles, everything relies on silicon, and right now, the world's greatest superpowers are quietly engaging in a massive, high-stakes economic war to control them. This isn't just about selling more smartphones. It is about national security and survival. Because in the 21st century, whoever controls the silicon, controls the future of warfare, the global economy, and ultimate geopolitical dominance. We are witnessing the dawn of a new kind of conflict. One fought not with bullets, but with export controls, intellectual property, and supply chains. A war where the most critical choke point is an island in the Pacific, and the ultimate weapon is a machine that prints with extreme ultraviolet light. Welcome to the invisible battlefield that will define our era. Welcome to the chip wars. Let's dive into how we got here. To understand how a piece of sand became the most fought over resource on Earth, we need a quick history lesson. Back in the early days of Silicon Valley, the industry operated very differently. Tech pioneers like Intel did everything themselves. They designed the intricate chips completely in-house, drawing out complex circuit blueprints. And they also built the massive factories, called fabs, to physically print those exact designs onto silicon wafers. It was a closed, perfectly controlled loop. A single company handled the entire process from start to finish. But as technology advanced, chips had to become much faster, and therefore, much smaller, shrinking down to the size of a virus. This meant the factories required to build them became impossibly complex. The cost to build a single new fab skyrocketed into the billions of dollars. The industry quickly realized something profound. Trying to do everything yourself in-house was a fast track to bankruptcy. So, a massive, industry-altering split happened. The monolithic supply chain was violently broken into highly specialized pieces. Today, the companies that design the world's most advanced chips, like Apple, Nvidia, and AMD, don't actually manufacture anything physically. They are what we call fabless. Instead of building factories, they spend billions creating incredibly complex digital blueprints. And then they send those digital blueprints across the ocean to specialized manufacturing giants. This globalized model was a capitalist dream. It aggressively drove down costs, increased manufacturing efficiency, and fueled the massive tech boom of the last 2 decades. We got cheap laptops and powerful smartphones. But there was a catch. By optimizing purely for absolute efficiency, we completely sacrificed security. We unintentionally built a terrifying vulnerability. By dispersing the supply chain across the globe, we created a tangled system full of critical geopolitical choke points. And the most dangerous one of all. Let's look at the map. The semiconductor supply chain is the most complex logistics network in human history. Raw materials from Japan, design software from the US, and hyper-advanced machinery from Europe. But eventually, almost all these paths converge on one single, heavily fortified island, Taiwan. More specifically, one single company, TSMC. Taiwan manufactures over 60% of all semiconductors globally. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. They produce a staggering 90% of the world's most advanced chips. Every cutting-edge piece of tech you own is likely born right here. If you want to train an advanced AI model, or guide a precision hypersonic missile, You are buying a chip made in Taiwan. This concentration is a strategic nightmare. It's a geopolitical choke point so severe that the entire global economy hinges on it. If shipping lanes around Taiwan were blockaded for just a few weeks, the entire global electronics industry would grind to a halt. Factories from Germany to Vietnam would shut down. Computers, cars, medical equipment, everything would simply stop. The cost to the global economy would be measured in trillions of dollars. A catastrophe unlike anything we've seen since the Great Depression. But wait, why can't other countries just build their own TSMC? Why are we so stuck with one island? Because you can't just throw money at the problem. Manufacturing these chips is arguably the hardest physical task humans have ever attempted. It's like trying to build a cathedral out of individual atoms, where a single speck of dust can destroy months of work. The level of precision required defies human imagination. To see why, we have to go inside the most advanced factories on the planet. Welcome to the clean room, a place millions of times purer than a hospital. This is where the magic, and the war, truly begins. Meet the silicon wafer, 300 millimeters of pure perfection. In the next few minutes, we'll see why this is the most valuable material in the world. You can't just throw money at a semiconductor fab. To understand why, we have to talk about Moore's law, the backbone of the digital age. Moore's law observed that transistors on a chip double every 2 years. But we're hitting a wall, a physical, atomic wall. To keep going, we have to carve features just a few nanometers wide. That is smaller than a strand of DNA or a single virus. To achieve this, you need a machine that defies belief, the EUV lithography machine. The only machine capable of printing with light. Made exclusively by one Dutch company, ASML. These machines cost over $200 million each. And they are the size of a bus. But money isn't the problem. It's the engineering inside. It uses a process so extreme it doesn't naturally exist on Earth. It takes tiny drops of molten tin and blasts them with a high-power laser 50.000 times every single second. This creates extreme ultraviolet light, a wavelength so short it is absorbed by almost everything, including the very air we breathe. Because air absorbs EUV, the entire process must happen inside a near-perfect vacuum, one of the emptiest places in the solar system. To focus this light, you need the world's flattest mirrors. If they were the size of Germany, the biggest bump would be just 1 millimeter high. And then there is the purity. A clean room fab is millions of times cleaner than any hospital operating theater on the planet. In this world, a single speck of dust isn't just dirt. It's a mountain, a microscopic monster that can destroy an entire production run. Replicating this ecosystem isn't about one machine. It's a symphony of extreme engineering that took the entire world decades to perfect. But that perfection is fragile. And as the geopolitical temperature began to rise, the world's superpowers realized they were all walking on thin ice. Semiconductors were no longer just trade goods. They were becoming the primary weapon in a new kind of war. One that was about to go public. For a long time, the world was content with cheap gadgets. But beneath the surface, the geopolitical temperature was rising to a boiling point. In 2015, China unveiled a bold plan, Made in China 2025. The goal, total independence in the world's most critical high-tech industries. This wasn't just about making better appliances. It was a $150 billion bet to become the dominant player in the global silicon market. In Washington, alarm bells screamed. Policymakers realized that whoever owned the chips owned the 21st century's ultimate military and economic engine. The realization struck like a thunderbolt. Semiconductors aren't just trade goods. They are the most effective weapons in a new kind of silent war. Instead of troops and warships, the first strikes were delivered via legal documents. Enter the era of the modern technological siege. By implementing sweeping export controls, the US leveraged its control over the original designs and the specialized Dutch machinery from ASML. The target was precise: choke off the rival's ability to manufacture, or even buy, the most advanced AI chips on the planet. A digital wall began to rise. New regulations restricted high-end chips and the engineers who knew the now to make them from crossing borders. It is a modern-day siege, not of a castle, but of a nation's future. If you can't build chips, you can't build the future. The opponent didn't just sit back. China responded by restricting key raw materials like gallium and germanium, turning the supply chain into a battlefield. This isn't just a trade spat. It is tech sovereignty, the idea that a nation's survival depends on owning its own entire technology ecosystem. Intellectual property licenses became as critical as oil reserves. One signature on a piece of paper could freeze a tech giant's production line overnight. Smaller nations watched in terror. The global supply chain, once a masterpiece of efficiency, was being torn apart by two competing gravitational forces. We are no longer in an era of globalization. We are in the era of the silicon siege, where software and silicon are the new frontline. Why all this desperation over tiny AI chips? Because the very nature of warfare has fundamentally transformed. We have left the era of mass behind. For a century, power was measured in the number of tanks, planes, and ships. But today, massive traditional armor is becoming a liability. The new frontline is precision. Modern combat is an asymmetric game of speed and data, where the smallest units have the deadliest punch. Enter the drone swarm, hundreds of low-cost, expendable units acting as a single, intelligent entity. They don't need a human to fly them. Powered by advanced AI chips, they can identify targets, avoid jamming, and coordinate attacks with devastating, autonomous efficiency. Even our most famous weapons are now just flying supercomputers. The F-35 jet is essentially millions of lines of code wrapped in titanium. Its pilot doesn't just look through a window. They see a digital world, where every threat is analyzed in real time by onboard silicon. Higher up, a constellation of satellites acts as a global nervous system, relaying data from the sensor to the shooter in milliseconds. Even hypersonic missiles, flying at 5 times the speed of sound, need advanced chips to make split-second adjustments to hit their mark. In modern war, the military that processes data the fastest wins. It's about shrinking the OODA loop: observe, orient, decide, and act. Without the latest chips, your army isn't just old, it's blind. While one side sees the entire board, the other is stuck in the dark. Then there is electronic warfare. Advanced chips allow armies to jam enemy signals, blinding their radars and hijacking their drones. We are moving toward a future of autonomous robotic units, where decisions of life and death are made by algorithms in a fraction of a second. If you lack the latest silicon, your military becomes a museum, powerful in the past, but completely helpless against the invisible threats of today. This is why the world has hit the panic button. The battle for the future isn't just in the lab, it's a trillion-dollar race for survival. Realizing the existential threat of relying on a fragile supply chain, the world has hit the panic button. Welcome to the era of the great subsidy race. The United States passed the CHIPS and Science Act, injecting tens of billions of dollars to convince giants like TSMC and Intel to build massive fabs in Arizona and Ohio. Europe is doing the same with its own European Chips Act, aiming to double its global market share and secure its own technological future. Japan and South Korea are throwing massive tax breaks and investments to keep their leading edge. We are witnessing the unwinding of decades of globalization. Instead of efficiency, nations are now paying a massive premium for security. The dream of a single, frictionless global market is fracturing. Nations are choosing security over cost. They are now willing to pay billions more to ensure they aren't held hostage by a future crisis. But building a fab isn't as simple as writing a check. It takes years of construction and requires a level of expertise that can't be bought overnight. Building a cutting-edge fab takes 5 to 7 years. It is a slow, agonizing process where every delay costs millions. Then there is the talent gap. You need thousands of PhD-level engineers with highly specialized knowledge, experts that most countries currently lack. And don't forget the ecosystem. A fab needs thousands of local suppliers, from specialized chemical makers to ultra-pure gas providers. You can't just move a forest overnight. Throwing billions of dollars at the problem is the easy part. Rebuilding a specialized supply chain from scratch is a monumental, decades-long struggle. Across the world, ground is being broken on massive new, mega-fabs. These are among the largest and most expensive construction projects in history. Billions of taxpayer dollars are being funneled into these high-stakes bets. Governments are gambling that they can buy security with a blank check. But as these new supply chains emerge, the old ties are snapping. Interdependence, the very thing that guaranteed peace, is fading away. We are building a world of walls. And the question is, will these walls protect us? Or will they only lead us closer to the brink of conflict? So, where does this leave us? We are standing at a historic crossroads. For decades, the theory was that complex global supply chains acted as a silicon shield. The idea was that because everyone relied on everyone else to make iPhones and laptops, a major war would be economic suicide for all sides. Interdependence was supposed to guarantee peace. But history shows that when superpowers feel cornered, logic and economics often fail. As nations rush to build their own independent tech ecosystems, we risk dropping a silicon curtain across the globe. Two separate worlds, two separate internets, two separate AI ecosystems, and two deeply suspicious military blocs. A world of redundancy and isolation. The chip war isn't just about who gets to sell the most smartphones or who has the fastest laptops. It is a battle for the very foundation of power. It is the defining economic and geopolitical struggle of our time. And the winner will write the rules for the 21st century. For now, we watch as billions of transistors are printed every second, deciding which nation rises and which one is left behind. In the battle of silicon, the balance is delicate. One breakthrough, or one blockade, can change everything. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Let us know in the comments, do you think we can ever return to a unified global market? This video was created with the help of History Video V3. Developed by HATHANH. Visit our website for more historical insights.